Hello everyone, and straight to the content. What a crazy day yesterday on the CPI reading. So we had a drop, which was very warranted, but then we actually had an explosion to the upside, just stopping out so many people. And guys, full disclosure, I got stopped out as well. This happens very rarely. I'm usually very right on these big moves, but I got stopped out as well. So I mean, I got in at about somewhere right here, and then I got stopped out basically at about $22,000. That's where approximately my stop loss was. So this is where I also got kicked out. And quite frankly, I mean, full disclosure, that's why you respect me, that when I make a profit, I brag about my profit. When I make a loss, then I also just, full disclosure, always admit to me taking a loss. So, but was this a mistake? Was this a mistake of taking a short trade here on this terrible CPI reading, which some people are calling neutral? Let's talk about this, and let me point you in the direction of the possible reasoning as to why did this happen, and so many people got really wrecked and liquidated here, including myself, that I just got a stop loss. I mean, it wasn't big, lost $2,000. It pales in comparison with all the profits we've made, but it still is quite painful, especially in this kind of a clear-cut short trade. It's just clear-cut. So let's just examine this. So we had this downside, then a huge explosion, and a lot of volume. A lot of people got really a huge short squeeze, because a lot of people were shorting on this bad CPI reading. And by the way, we are currently forming this kind of a wedge here. So let's see if it actually breaks to the downside, which would be like, Jesus Lord Christ. And then or it actually continues to the upside, which right now, understanding everything that happened yesterday and the potential market expectations for the future of the price, we have to understand it. So let me just go bit by bit and step by step. So once again, what did cause, what was the cause of this drop in Bitcoin immediately as the CPI reading actually came out? Well, it's because the CPI reading was terrible. So, I mean, it's obvious. So 6.5% was previous, forecast was 6.2, actual was 6.4. I mean, this is a huge miss. The markets did not price in 6.4. So the same thing goes for, the core one. The forecast was 5.5. It came in hotter than 5.5. So, and, a lot of the markets are actually going to be also, the next thing they'll be waiting for is the February 24th, which is the PCE reading. So, and if just in general, we're going to take a look at the breakdown. A lot of people are saying, well, you have to look at the details of the CPI. And if you look at here is the inflation breakdown for January, and you're gonna see that it's, I mean, look, eggs 70% increase. So many things have increased. Some of the things like televisions have dropped 13%, but in general, it looks pretty bad. So why is this negative for the markets? And this is simply because Fed could potentially keep the interest rates much higher for longer. Therefore, there is a higher likelihood of us going into a recession and spike in unemployment, etc. Something that we've talked about so much. So, but then the question is, why did it rally? Like, what's the reason behind it? And I was just sitting there, I was like, excuse me? This was such a clear-cut short trade. So, but anyway, the reason, in my personal humble opinion, is this kind of stuff right here. So this is, this is an interesting example that basically in April of 2019, we also had this, consolidation, the bottom of the bear market, also this kind of a move to the downside a little bit. And this is actually when Bitfinex covered a $850 million loss using Tether funds. And this was when the New York Attorney General has obtained a court order against the crypto exchange Bitfinex. So this is when they were a big Bitfinex FUD and also Tether. So, and basically this was actually, and once we got over it, it actually rallied like a few 100%. So, and what we were saying right now, similar kind of a structure, and currently this is the BUSD FUD and like Binance FUD. So some people are drawing huge parallels, and a lot of people are pointing to the fact that the market currently just was so overdue for a relief rally that people are just simply too dumb to accept the fact that the inflation is sticky. Because what they were saying, but the reason why they said it was neutral, I've heard a lot of people saying it's neutral, because they said that, well, yeah, I mean, we kind of missed the forecast by like 0.2%, but at the same time, it still went down from 6.5 to 6.4. And they somehow are discrediting the fact that inflation, I mean, the pace at which the inflation is going down is slowing. Already slowing, and we're so far away from the 2% target on inflation, which is, in my view, it's horrendous. It's not good at all. So, but the markets were like, okay, maybe it's going to just come down. It's going to keep coming down just a bit slower, and that's okay. We really want to see a pump, this kind of a hopium scenario. So this is potentially the reason behind this whole pump instead of a dump, just like so many times we've seen. We've made, guys, I mean, we've made so much money on shorting terrible CPI data, and we shorted CPI data releases that were theoretically better than the one from yesterday. And we made a lot of money from shorting Bitcoin on terrible CPI data. So this is no different. So what has changed? The narrative potentially has changed, and this is what we potentially have misread, and this is very difficult to predict, but this potentially is what we could have misread in this kind of an instance, that the market is just looking at all these things and just has this incredible hopium inside of it. And the same thing is, if we're going to move on to this, for example, we're going to see that, and this is what a lot of people are also looking at, that actually federal prosecutors in Washington are probing Silvergate and its dealings with FTX and Alameda Research. So there is, Silvergate is no saint, and right now they have a lot of issues with federal prosecutors. But at the same time, we see no problem for example, Ken Griffin's Citadel Securities, that has just revealed a 5.5% stake in crypto bank Silvergate. So they put in about like $25 million into it. Why would they do it if there is such a, if Silvergate is going under because of there is federal probe and, they're going to be maybe banned or whatever. So do they actually know what we don't know when it comes to crypto space? The same thing goes for BlackRock. Silvergate Capital shares jump after BlackRock reports increased stake in the crypto bank. So this was from January 31st, but nonetheless, so we see so many big names silently and quietly going into things like Silvergate. And why? Well, Silvergate is trading currently at at some point a 90% discount. So it crashed 90%. So these big boys are going into these crypto stocks right now, and this is what gives a lot of hopium to the market that this could be the bottom, despite this maybe a bit of sticky inflation. It is a bit bad, but let's hope we're gonna just continue to the upside. So therefore, same thing if we're, for example, gonna take a look at S&P 500. It's very, it was a bloodbath. Up, down, up, down. It just was up and down. And right now we're just consolidating also in this kind of a pattern here. So it didn't even go anywhere from yesterday. It actually went down a little bit. But Bitcoin is somehow holding up. And this is quite worrying, especially during the situation with BUSD. And, as you might remember, that BUSD Paxos, who is issuing and minting BUSD, was prohibited from minting any more BUSD. And then people were saying that actually Circle and the issuer of USDC was the one who actually pointed the feds in the direction of BUSD. And right now there were actually rumors that Circle itself also received that letter and the SEC enforcement action, but actually denied it, etc. But the thing is here, that if they're going after BUSD and they're saying that it's a security, which is quite dumb to be honest, because it doesn't fulfill this Howey test or whatever, it's just ridiculous. But nonetheless, if they're going after BUSD, what's standing in the way of them going after Tether, after USDC? So a lot of people were sending me messages, Thomas, which one is safe in terms of the stablecoin? I always said BUSD, but now clearly, at this point, not any one of them. Everybody's going out of BUSD now. Everybody's going out of USDC, going into Tether. But is Tether safe? It's not in US. The main office of Tether is in Bahamas, I believe. So they could come under huge scrutiny as well. So there are a lot of bad things that are still swirling around the crypto space. And, we're seeing still these big names actually going into it despite all of this FUD. That's the question. Do they know something we don't know? Therefore, I always accumulate. I always buy Bitcoin. The lower we go, the more Bitcoin I buy. I'll be selling Bitcoin far past $100,000 somewhere. And as I actually made a video as to where I'm going to be selling the majority of my Bitcoin, if any, depending on what's going to be the reserve currency of the world at that point. But this kind of a rally continuation, especially seeing that S&P didn't even move higher, it actually moved lower, but Bitcoin did move higher, this could actually, guys, look a bit like a manipulation and an unjust hopium in the market. I certainly hope it's going to continue. Let's take a look quickly at the technicals, because why? I'm holding a lot of Bitcoin. Certainly on this attempt to short Bitcoin price on this legitimate reason, I lost $2,000. But with this upside, I made much more because I hold shit ton of Bitcoin. So for me, it's like, I'm always happy that the Bitcoin price goes up, but I cannot refuse to short it when the opportunity presents itself. But in general, am I very hopeful that this move is just going to continue based on this really, honestly, terrible inflation data? I don't know. So next resistance, even if we're gonna actually break out of this wedge right here to the upside, which could be an interesting, really quick scalp trade as well to the upside, if it does break to the upside, then our target could be something like 22,500 and all the next levels that we see here, so 22,600, 23,000, etc. Will it continue? Well, let's find out, because I really was the believer that it has to crash on these readings just because of what Fed is doing and all the macroeconomics that we already are seeing, and not many things are getting much better. And even the inflation, we were hopeful it's going to go down, and it's starting to slow down in terms of its pace as it's, so there is nothing good. Therefore, this is just my honest, humble opinion. And if you guys want to learn how to trade Bitcoin with proper risk and money management, so that even if you take a trade and it doesn't play out like I do, although some of my trades don't play out, and that's fine, but I use proper risk and money management, so I can be 3 times in a row wrong and stopped out, but then with one good trade, I'll still make good money overall. This is called proper risk and money management. You need to be right only in 30 to 40% of the time to actually make money, good money. So this is what I discuss in this tutorial right here. So check it out so that you stay smart in the market. And as always, peace and love. Thomas Krallo. Stay smart, stay rich, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.